Hey there, 8th graders, welcome to class. I am so pumped you're here today because we're diving into a genuinely powerful truth about who actually holds the ultimate authority to shape our lives, our character, and our minds. You know, right now, as an 8th grader, you're at this incredible point where you're figuring out who you are and exactly what you want to become. But today, we're going to flip the script and ask a really fundamental question. Who is actually doing the shaping? So let's just dive right into this.
Okay, imagine this. Imagine putting all of your creativity, your time, and your energy into building something totally from scratch. Maybe you spent literally hours coding a cool new video game, or maybe you spent weeks carefully painting a picture for a big art project. Now just imagine for a second that your creation, the game or the painting, suddenly came to life, looked right at you, and started complaining about how you designed it. Like, hey, why did you make my graphics look like this? Or seriously, why did you use that awful shade of blue? It sounds completely ridiculous, right? A creation doesn't have the right or even the perspective to tell its creator how it should have been made. Keep that silly image in your head because it brilliantly hits the nail on the head when it comes to a very real truth about our universe.
Section 1. The Master Potter.
So to really understand our place in the world, we first have to look at the foundational relationship between the creator and the creation. Let's look at a very famous biblical metaphor. God is the master potter and we are the clay. Just like a potter takes a raw, messy lump of clay and intimately molds it with his very own hands, God is the ultimate creator who intentionally forms us. A potter doesn't just accidentally make a vase or a bowl, right? He thinks about exactly what he wants to create. He applies pressure right where it's needed, and he shapes it with a very specific purpose in mind. You aren't an accident. You were carefully, intentionally formed by the master potter.
Our memory verse today is Romans 9:20, and it asks a pretty crucial question. Will the thing formed say to him who formed it, "Why have you made me like this?" See, this points out exactly what we were just talking about with the complaining video game or the painting. It shows just how absolutely ridiculous it would be for a piece of pottery to question the design choices of the master artist. And yet, how often do we look at our own lives, our struggles, or our everyday circumstances and complain to God asking, "Why did you make my life like this?"
Moving on to Section 2, Authority over the Clay. This powerful metaphor brings us face to face with an unavoidable truth. What does this whole picture of the potter and the clay actually teach us about God's authority? While it teaches us that the potter possesses absolute authority over the clay, he has the total right to shape it precisely according to his own specific purpose. The clay doesn't get to choose if it becomes a giant fancy pitcher or just a tiny little teacup. The potter decides. In the exact same way, God has absolute authority over his creation.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Handing over absolute authority over your life? That might sound a little scary, unless, of course, you know their character. And here is exactly why we can completely trust God with this kind of authority. First, he is righteous. That means he always does what is perfectly good and fair. Second, he is merciful. He gives us grace and love even when we totally mess up. Third, he is patient. He gently shapes us over time, never giving up on us. And finally, he is wise. He sees the whole big picture of your life when you and I can only see right now. He knows exactly how to judge rightly, show mercy, and fulfill his perfect purpose for you.
All right, Section 3. Choosing humility.
Knowing God's perfect character kind of forces us to make a very real choice about our daily attitude. Honestly, we really only have two ways we can live. On one hand, we can have a stubborn and arguing attitude. Acting careless, accusing God of wrongdoing when life gets hard. It's literally like a lump of clay trying to jump right off the potter's wheel. Or, on the other hand, we can choose the attitude we are actually called to, humble and surrendered. This means fully trusting the potter's hands, even when the molding process feels a little uncomfortable. We must never be careless or stubborn, arguing against God, but instead, we are called to respond with total humility, knowing for sure that his design is far, far better than ours.
Section 4. Mercy for all people.
Now, you might be wondering who exactly God is calling to be part of this special design. How does this truth show that God calls both Jews and Gentiles? Well, in biblical times, the Jews were God's chosen nation, and basically everyone else was considered a Gentile. But the true beauty of the potter's workshop is that God's incredible mercy is so vast, it's not limited to just one nation, one specific background, or one type of person. His grace is literally available to everyone. The master potter is actively forming a beautiful people for himself, and it happens through a few clear steps. Step 1, we are called from all nations and backgrounds. Step 2, our job is to respond with surrendered faith, acting like that humble, moldable clay we talked about. Step 3, when we do that, we receive God's abundant mercy.
And step 4, we are empowered to live daily to please Him. That right there is the process of being shaped into something truly beautiful.
Section 5. Letting God shape you. So what does this biblical truth actually mean for your everyday life? Balancing middle school, friends, family. It means it is absolutely crucial to actively let God shape your life, your talents, and your choices for His glory. Look, God has given you unique abilities. Maybe you're a whiz at math, maybe you're an amazing athlete, a really loyal friend, or a super talented musician. Allowing yourself to be shaped into a useful vessel for His purpose means pausing and saying, God, how do you want to use these talents, rather than just using them for your own popularity or gain? It's making that daily choice to just yield to His hands.
Which brings us to Section 6, the godly learner.
This whole attitude of letting God shape you, it applies directly to how you approach your education and your mind. Here at HeroesMart Academy, we have a very clear philosophy about this. We believe true education is about pursuing academic excellence while completely intertwining it with biblical morality centered on God, truth, and wisdom. Why? Because honestly, education without biblical morality can actually hurt you. Raw education always needs a moral compass.
Think about the difference between just having knowledge alone versus having knowledge paired with morality. Imagine a truly brilliant computer programmer. If they only have intelligence, it simply makes them a more capable person. But without morality, they might use those skills to hack, to steal, or to cause real harm. It completely lacks righteous direction. Now think about knowledge combined with morality. This equips you to make wise, God-honoring choices out there in the real world. That exact same brilliant programmer, when guided by God's truth, will use their skills to solve big problems, help people, and glorify God. Intelligence shouldn't just make you a more capable person. It absolutely must be paired with morality to help you make righteous choices.
And that brings us straight to another foundational truth from Romans. Romans 8:6-7 teaches us that keeping the mind spiritually minded leads to life and peace. Listen, in 8th grade, it is so easy to get stressed out, anxious about grades, or totally caught up in social drama. I know it can feel super overwhelming sometimes. But as you pursue academic excellence, anchoring your mind in spiritual truths is the guaranteed path to finding genuine life and lasting peace.
So, as you dive into your studies and your life today, I leave you with this vital question. Look at the clay in your own hands and ask yourself, will you let the master potter shape your mind today? Remember, HeroesMart Academy intertwines biblical morality with education, because education without morality can hurt. Knowledge and intelligence should help you make wise, God-honoring choices rather than simply make you more capable. As we learned today, Romans 8:6-7 teaches that keeping the mind spiritually minded leads to life and peace. So, I highly encourage you to pursue academic excellence while keeping your mind completely centered on God, truth, wisdom, and righteous choices. Let Him do the shaping. Class dismissed. Have a fantastic day of learning.